Killer is dead.
Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is my Killer is Dead, very hard difficulty video walkthrough. This is episode 9. It is entitled The Giant Who Stole the Planet, or Who Stole Our Planet, sorry. So, this is another one of the insane jumps into just sheer absurdity that is the level progression in this game. It's not quite as crazy and unspecified as going to like Burma or wherever you went in Kane and Lynch 1, where the game suddenly cut from, you know, not necessarily a cohesive plot, but a plot nonetheless, to suddenly your freedom fighters in the middle of a war zone in some crazy third world country, you know, fighting against a paramilitary force, and it gave zero explanation other than your dog, there might be cocaine or heroin or some other good thing. But anyhow, we're in a research facility in like Area 59 or something daft, and we're looking for a giant. And that's pretty much all you need to know, because it's going to be some combat, as you can see here, just doing some just guarding and some evading and all that good stuff, building the combo, getting the payoff, which is called, is it called Passing Judgment or something? Which is where you select what you want to get when you kill people at a +5 combo. And I haven't really explained that stuff, because I'm hoping the people using this walkthrough already know what that all means, but I'll go through it just in case you don't, and you're just watching it for the fun. So, you can either pick two options which give you the ability to increase your life or your blood, or you can pick two options which will refill your life or your blood. That is kind of how that system works. Obviously, once you upgrade your life and your blood to maximum, there is very little reason to do two of those options anymore. And as you can see, these enemies here are the samurai guys that we fought in the level before the dream one we just did. And they're kind of tough, because they'll flip away, they'll throw shurikens at you, or kunais, they'll do a lot of stuff. So my advice here is whatever blood you've built up, use it to kill these guys quickly. Because they're fast, they're defensive, they ruin combos, they're quite difficult to evade just because of how defensive they are. And like, I'm trying to use the guard break here to good effect, and sometimes the guard break is useful, sometimes it's super useless. That right there is a really cheeky move too. They do a backwards flip and they chop you, but they also do a backwards flip where there's no attack, so you need to be careful because it's very, very subtly telegraphed. So just be aware of it and try not to get clipped. That being said, I wish I could tell you that there's a benefit to this game to not taking any damage, but there really isn't. Like, there's a bonus called the Gentleman bonus, where you generally get it for not taking any damage in a level, but I've done levels where I took 0 damage and the bonus wasn't there. It's almost like certain levels don't have it applicable, which is insanity. And then there's just this notion of the scoring in the game, which I still don't have a clue about. And I'm currently trying to get AAA ranks on everything, and what I've learned in my time with the game, which is, you know, quite substantial now, is it seems to all be about speed. It has nothing to do with skill, combos, knowledge, style. It's just speed. You can take your time killing every enemy without taking any damage, getting the highest combos, getting the most amount of experience crystals from them, and then at the end of the level, you'll get a B. You'll get a B for doing what looks like the best performance you've ever seen in any game ever. But you buy these outfits that give you unlimited blood or increase your combat ability, and then blitz through the entire level doing nothing but, you know, adrenaline bursts and insta-killing every enemy, and any enemy that you don't insta-kill, you shoot a charged rocket at that breaks its armor, and then you insta-kill it. And at the end, you know, you get a AAA. AAA for beating the level in 3 minutes in the least stylish way possible. Like, it's such a confusing game mechanic, and it's confusing for a whole bunch of reasons. The first one is, this is a game that encourages you to replay it for skill, for rank, yet there's almost zero explanation of how the ranking system works, and coming from somebody who's played, you know, a whole bunch of these action games that have ranking systems in them, a la your Devil May Cry's, a la your Metal Gear Risings, you know, stuff like that. Even the most recent Ninja Gaidens, even Ninja Gaiden had a ranking at the end of the level, which was, you know, facilitated by karma and spamming UTs, but it was still a ranking and a way to prove that you understood how the game worked. And this game's... it's not good. And Lollipop Chainsaw was very similar in this regards, but Lollipop Chainsaw had a system that worked, and it wasn't all about speed. It was all about getting the decapitations and getting those like rainbow medals or whatever they were called. And there was a system to do that. There was a combo that was really good at dismembering people, and there was a move where you jumped and you knocked people over, and it allowed you to instantly decapitate them. So you could game it, you could get better at it, and you could utilize your own personal ability to get those ranks. On this game, it feels like if you don't use those cheats, those costumes that give you ridiculous abilities, that it's just a waste of time. And why would you not have a nuanced and interesting score system when you have an option that says world leaderboards? You know, if you're putting this emphasis on leaderboards, on rank, on you know, people replaying your game to get higher scores and doing the whole leaderboard stuff, why would you make your score system so just impenetrable and stupid? I don't understand. And if you know how to get good scores on this game, guys, like you're number 1 in the world, or you know, you're really good at it and you found a super cool way of doing it, you know, please leave a comment saying, you know, this is one way that I've been able to get some really high scores and it seems to work. Because as it stands, speed is everything. Speed is literally the only statistic that matters. Everything else is just secondary. There's also level-specific objectives that get you costumes, and if you do those, they seem to give you a massive bonus too. Like, it doesn't matter if you played like shit the entire level. As long as you did it fast and you did that bonus, then that's it, jobs are good. And I hate that, I really do. Like, I own this game and I want to play it, and I want the game to give me reasons to keep playing it and get better, and I want things to master. But in all honesty, like, I just don't see it having that much longevity at all. And it saddens me because I love how the game looks. I love the counter system. I love the music. You know, I like the combat. It's got some problems that if I was a games tester in their studio, I would have literally stood on the table and kind of proclaimed, "Are you fucking high? This doesn't work." And hopefully they would have changed. Like, maybe not. Maybe it would have been one of those things where it's like, it's nice to have your input, now you're fired. But still, I would have said it, and I would have gladly taken a firing just to get it out there. Because there's a level of unpolish on this game that is unforgivable. And it's very strange. It is strange. But in spite of all the flaws, it's fun. There is a lot of fun to be had. There's a lot of silly level design. There's a lot of novelty moments that do work a lot better than perhaps the Gigolo missions ought to have. This armoured samurai dude here, if you charge up the green weapon attachment for your arm, for the muscle back, it can instantly take off all of his armour on normal. I don't know if it's the same on this difficulty. I'm not too sure how much blood it uses to do that either, but definitely something you should experiment with if you're having problems with the enemies you cannot cut until you stun them. Another good strategy for the gold enemies is to guard break them. You can stun them with the punches. It can take a few hits to do, but it's really viable for getting them down quickly. You'll notice I just try and wait to counter and then break their armour that way. I'm not showing you the best example of this as a strategy right now, so I apologise for that. But it does work, guys, believe you me. But some of the stranger moments of the game, like the adrenaline burst mode where you can instantly execute people, if they're on a different level to you, and I'm talking literally a step higher than you, like a brick that's slightly higher than the rest of the bricks, you can't even target them. The target system doesn't work. This is another really good tune, by the way. And this is the hardest checkpoint that's not a boss encounter in the game, in my opinion. And I just don't understand this either. But what's going to happen here, folks, is you've got 10 minutes to get through the labs and to do an extremely difficult room later on the back end of this stage. And what's going to happen is every time you enter a room, you're going to fight a handful of guys. It's going to be a diverse range of wires. It's going to be the standard wires. It's going to be the kind of dreadlocked wires with the maces. And it's going to be these new creatures that are kind of like rolling dinosaur dudes. They look strange. I don't really know what they look like. They look like some kind of perverted Yu-Gi-Oh / Digimon machination. And there's one of them just there that I just chopped in half, that guy. So they're not too bad as an enemy, but they have a tendency to attack you off screen with some pretty powerful attacks, so you need to keep your head on a swivel and be aware of them. And also be aware of your time limit, because there's quite a few engagements that have to be done here. So shield guys, you can either get behind them and attack them, you can either try and guard break them, or counter them, or break the shield with the drill, or shoot the charged green. Awesome room sweeper. Ooh, look at that! That's something you've not seen. Apparently the guys who drop their weapons have the ability to grab you from behind if you give them weakness or if you show a vulnerability. And then you have to wiggle the analog to get out, which is something that I just don't do because it really bugs me. And I saw some replies on one of the videos. It was almost universally in favour of everybody disliking button mashing. And I agree. You know, it's needless. God of War kind of utilised it first to a large extent, and it's kind of permeated gaming in the worst possible sense. And at times, it's just unnecessary. It's really unnecessary, but I think the thing that's worse is the analog stuff. They're knocking the analog left and right. You know, we don't need any more incentive to damage these analogs. They stray as it is. You know, they prefer a certain side. They break. You know, it's not useful. And it always reminds me of the old N64 analogs. I don't know if anybody had one, but you can always tell an old N64 analog because it's stiff as balls. It's so stiff. Like it's like a mortar thing, like a easel and mortar. I can't remember the names. Easel and that thing that you used to grind things up. It's kind of like that. It's not good. And when you pick up a new pad and you feel the virginal analog and the awesomeness of it, and it's just sublime. And then you go back to your old ones, and it literally feels like you're trying to tip a bus. It's just hilarious. And it's the same with the Xbox One in some extents. Like you wear down the thumbprint, and it generally goes like from being quite sturdy to quite loose and a bit clicky and things like that. This is another pointless enemy that I hate. The dude that sits around not doing out and you shoot him for an hour. Fantastic design on that guy. So glad they put him in there to add that little bit of excitement. But the reason that this is difficult, guys, is there's no checkpoint. All these fights that you've seen for the last few minutes, all of these you have to do again. And these aren't necessarily the ones that are a problem because they're not too bad. It's the one coming up. And I use a Mika token ticket thing. And once again, I was trying my best not to use them, folks, but the way I get screwed in this video is poetry. It's some Left 4 Dead, every special gets every member of your team at the same time kind of bullshit. It's glorious. And I'm really happy that I've got it on display. Because I think everybody who plays video games, any video game, it doesn't matter, it can be literally Farmville or some shit on your phone, you're going to come across a moment where all the planets align and universally bum you. Like, just on an astronomical scale of buggery. It's hilarious. And you can't help but laugh, hopefully, because if you don't, you'll probably murder your entire family, which, you know, is extremely difficult to explain in court. Unless you do the whole Morpheus told me to do it, and then nobody believes you, and Lawrence Fishburne's career just goes a little bit more down the toilet. But it's so good. And there's something that you haven't really seen too often on this guide so far. That is the ability for bullets to stun Mondo. And it's something I'll never understand in games. Like, you play this super badass dude, and guns are pretty much diminished in their value. They don't do too much damage. They're generally just an annoyance, kind of like flies. You know, like when those kids in Africa make the adverts and they're all over the face. Kind of a bit like that, you know, when they're so used to it, which is tragic, that they don't even blink when they're like walking on the pupil and stuff. But in a game context and nowhere near as sad. But yet, on this game, after a couple of hits, you get stunned. It's a flinch state, and it can paralyze you. It can put you in a moment where you have to bash the analog. There are robot guys that fire like a plasma energy at you, which also paralyzes you. But this is the hard part. So, two of the little red dinosaur guys, big fella, and two dudes on the balconies with guns. If you kill anything but the big fella, they will infinitely respawn, it seems. I literally killed dozens and they just kept coming back. So what you have to do here is you have to kill the big guy first and then kill everybody else. So I recommend using all your blood to shoot him, because it does quite decent damage when you get a nice string of shots going. I recommend using the other enemies to hit him, because they do good damage too. And if you can get a counter on him, that'll do good damage as well. Thing to bear in mind here is just, you're on the same life bar from the previous section, and everything in this room does a lot of damage. Like, if you get hit here, it hurts. And it can be super easy to get hit because you're getting stunned by gunfire. And it's crowded, camera's not great, all the elements that go together making this game, like that's double hit there, get a counter on him. Another hit, getting quite low on life. When does it happen? There it is, the stun. There's the stun, watch this. Dead. Admittedly, I only had like 7 gems out of a full life bar, but still. How perfect was that? Just gangbanged in the space of a second. So I wasn't pleased. I used the token because I know that the checkpoint here is redundant and stupid. And a couple of people have mentioned, like, why don't I use the tokens? I did explain earlier on, I don't know if they saw that video or if it wasn't concise enough, but it's a personal choice. You know, I like to get better at games. I don't like to cheese games unless the cheese involves a technique that can be replicated at will. And obviously Mika tokens aren't something you can just rely on, because you only get 3 per level and they're very easy to use if you play bad. They cost a lot to buy back. It's not something I want to rely on. And it's similar to Bayonetta and to Devil May Cry. Lesser so in Ninja Gaiden because they're a little bit different, but I refuse to make lollipops, buy lollipops, or use lollipops in Bayonetta. And a lot of people might say that that's crazy, but if you have this unlimited amount of healing, you're in no danger, and regardless of how sloppy you play, you will never ever learn from your mistakes or become a better player, because you'll just compensate by healing. Thus you'll get worse over time, and you know, you don't even notice. You're gonna just know, you'll realize one day that you're bad at a game you think you're good at, and the only reason you're good at it is because you rely on something that cheeses the game. And it's complacent, and it's what I try to avoid to the best of my ability, because I enjoy the mastery stage of games, and I don't have the time anymore to obsess over one, you know, for a year, but I still like to get to a competent level on them. And it's the same with Dark Souls, which, to bring it full circle for a lot of the members of my channel now who are really Dark Souls focused, you know, everybody kindles bonfires. I don't. I stopped kindling after maybe my 3rd playthrough, because it's something that becomes a crutch. It got to the point where I barely use Estus anymore. Like, depending on my mood, depending on what I'm doing, I'll try to avoid healing, because it's so easy to just get into this sequence of doing nothing but. Like, when I watch people play Dark Souls, and when I watch guides, playthroughs, let's plays, there's a whole host of content, I see people get down to about half life, or lose some life, and then they immediately go on into this turtle backing up mentality, and then they'll die. They'll die because they're in the animation of healing and the boss will hit them. And then they wonder why they died. And it's just like, the time it took you to go into that defensive posture and find a spot to heal, or to spam heal and use poise and keep spamming heal and just do this kind of heal marathon with the enemy, you could have concentrated a little bit more, gone into that, you know, intensity mode of I need to do this or I die, and perhaps killed him in the time it took you to go off and try and heal. And it doesn't work all the time. You know, it happens to me a bunch of times where I have to come through and kind of save the day, and I don't. I get hit, and I do a stupid mistake, and I die. But it's just how it works. And I think it's much more rewarding to go down like that on your shield than it is to try and back up and just keep chugging Estus. Go through 15 flasks in a single Smough Ornstein fight. It just, you're not getting better at that point. And it's same with summoning NPCs. I could have a whole tangent on this about, you know, if you're in New Game Plus 5 and you're still summoning Solaire to beat Smough Ornstein, why the hell are you still playing the game? And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, I'm just saying you benefit zero from it. Like, as a player. And I am aware that not everybody wants to get better when they play a game. Some people just play it for the sheer you know, enjoyment of smacking a few things, or they just play for an hour and they wanna beat it and send it back. They don't watch the cutscenes. They skip the cutscenes. They don't care about the, you know, the mechanics or the meta game or any of that stuff. They just want to play. You know, everybody plays for different reasons, but you know, this is my guide. This is my channel. These are my thoughts. These are my opinions. I play to destroy. It's just the way I've always been. You know, I want to know how to break the game. I want to know how to get to a state where I can overcome anything the game throws at me, and there is nothing that I'm not prepared for and know exactly how to cheese, beat, destroy, you know, eviscerate. Because that's fun for me. It's not fun for everybody. I have friends who play these character-driven action games. They don't even beat them on normal because it's just not their type of game. And they see me investing all these hours in them, and they don't understand it. They don't get why I do it. And it's just that thing of, you know, everybody's different. Oh, this sequence here, you can completely hide and let Vivian shoot them, or you can shoot them yourself to kind of speed it up, or use your blood to execute them in burst adrenaline mode. It's entirely up to you, you know. All depends on how you want to play. But you're completely safe behind this air conditioning unit, which kind of looks like a rocket engine sitting the wrong way. But she's really menacing with that laugh. But bringing it back to, you know, the playing to get better rather than playing just for the sheer attrition. There are some games that I guess you never get better at. There are some things that just you can't do. There are certain things, you know, you can't pick up, you can't understand, that just don't correlate with you. You know, they don't resonate with your skills. And I'm sure there's a barrier that you can push through, and you can continue doing it until you do understand it. But I don't think everybody has the willpower to do that. I know I don't. Like, when I was younger, I used to love FIFA games. I used to love football, and that's soccer for all the American guys, even though this is a sport that actually touches your feet. And I was obsessed. I was completely obsessed with them. I used to play them on the Mega Drive, you know, back in the days of FIFA 94, FIFA 95, stuff like that. All the way up to 97, which is one I liked a lot. 98, another great one. 99, I think my personal favourite. And I went off football. I stopped playing it, I stopped being interested in it, and I kind of left the games behind. And now when I go back to play them, I don't have any talent or ability to play them. Like, I get no enjoyment from it. I get frustrated when the computer tackles me, and the computer AIs come on such a long way nowadays that they're pretty good to play against. So if you like football games, they give you a really good challenge. And it does nothing for me. It just irks me. All I want to do is play as Roberto Carlos and do a free kick from 30 yards out, bend it around the wall, and leave Fabian Barthez in the dust. That's all I want to do on him, and that's a period of time that has long since passed. You know, it's all super close-in foot mechanics and stuff, and interesting systems. And if you're a football guy and you like the games, it's probably great. But to me, it's just the ultimate snowfest. It's literally like chewing glue. There's just no point at all for me. And it's very similar with beat-em-ups and racing games. I used to enjoy both of them a lot, and nowadays they do nothing for me. You know, they're like a naked male. It doesn't spice me at all. I just don't have that part in me. And it's a shame too, because I am missing out on some probably really subtly nuanced and fun games, but I don't have the patience for them anymore. And that's just me personally. That being said though, I do think it's really relative to your environment. Because if you have a group of friends that are super into a particular type of game, especially when you're young and impressionable, you will gravitate towards it just because your friends are, and that can help, you know, you get an interest for something that you might not necessarily take on. And like, I imagine if I'd have had a bunch of friends and we'd have lived in a place that actually had arcades rather than, you know, crack houses, that we might have got super competitive on beat-em-ups. We might have, you know, be the type of person who buys a stick and plays online and does nothing but hate lag and and all that good stuff, and goes to the local arcades and just hustles people and goes to tournaments and gets super into the details and the frames and the mechanics and the crossovers and all that kind of stuff. But we never were, so that never happened. And instead, I think kind of our calling was perhaps JRPGs, because they were super big in my group of friends, which is a really pansy sounding adjective. They were super big. But yeah, it's an interesting discussion. There's not really been too much to talk about in the game, so nice tangent to spread it out. These enemies here, I recommend spending a couple of minutes with them, learning the tells, learning the attacks, and getting the evades down. What you need to bear in mind in this fight is there's a couple of those little mosquito assholes, which I hate. And this game is really good at doing this. You know, it puts you up against an enemy that's really aggressive, really close-quartered, and it has a little flying guy in the corner that does just enough to paralyze you while his friend comes over and introduces you to the tip of his penis, which is never... Look, just then. Like, look how vulnerable you are. It's madness. And it doesn't help that blood governs your gun. Like, why not just make the gun weaker, but have it not run off blood, and just have blood be for execution moves or special moves? Lots of interesting things. But that is one of the Gigolo mission ladies, a girl called Natalia. She's a girl who sits at the bar, and every so often in the missions, the girls will phone you and essentially complain that you're not coming to see them. It's an interesting thing to interrupt the game with, but it holds almost zero weight because the only thing you do with these ladies is seduce them to get prizes, and that is literally it. There's nothing, there's no development, there's no enriching conclusions. It's just, depending on your grade, depends on how far you go with the girls, and the cutscenes themselves are just this neutered, ridiculous, badly choreographed, you know, fully clothed sex scenes that are about as erotic as a really, like Paul Mitchell's beard. Just, they get you as hot as a bearded man does. And if you like bearded men, then you're probably going to really like these cutscenes, even though that just doesn't make any sense, because there's zero correlation between, you know, polygonal women jiving around in lacy garments and a big burly bearded man like Pete Bunyan. But I'll just end it there because it wasn't going anywhere. This is an armoured version of the giant guys. He's also another person who's extremely susceptible to being shot with the charge cannon to break his armour. You can also do the guard break to try and stun him quicker. But be aware, do you see that kind of red stuff? Oh, another thing as well. Evading this guy's attacks seems really difficult, and I don't know why. There's times when I do it perfectly, and there's times when he hits me with every single thing. Like, I dodge away from it, I dodge into it. Sometimes it just doesn't make much sense, but just be careful because he's extremely strong, and like I say, the countering on this dude is tricky. So hopefully you're much better than I am at it. But as I was saying, there's kind of a red energy cannon on his shoulder, a little bit like the plasma cannon that the Predator has, and it starts to glow and build up energy, and then it fires at you a little staccato of shots. And it doesn't do a lot of damage, but it interrupts your combo, it interrupts your movements, because Mondo doesn't have any poise, so he flinches like a bitch all the time. Now, there's a move on this game called the Moon Cut, where he spins around and does a super powerful stab into the ground. It's an AoE. But if you get hit once during the build-up, he comes out of it, it cancels it. And it's so frustrating that he doesn't have some kind of hyper armor or like unflinching high priority or something along those lines. But that's the end of the level. I'll see you in the next video, which will be the boss fight. And as always, you take care now.